What's up, hockey fans, and welcome to another edition of Just Winging It. We have talked to one K-Wings player so far this offseason, and that was Justin Taylor a little bit earlier on in the quarantine period that we've all been in lately. But we wanted to get a few more perspectives from the 2019-20 team, and I know the goaltender position is always a popular one, and this next guest has been a K-Wings goaltender for the last 2 years. I've known him for longer than that. Second team we've worked together on, but it's none other than Jake Hildebrand. Hildy, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on here.
What have you been up to during this 10-week quarantine we've been, and how have you stayed busy? And where is home base right now for you?
Well, I kind of went home back to Pittsburgh, where I'm from. I stayed there for about 5 weeks. A couple weeks ago, I moved to Garden City. I'm actually renting a house there for the summer. And then I've taken a couple trips, long driving trips. I did a camping trip with a few of my buddies from back home, and then I drove down to Georgia to pick up a boat with another one of my buddies. So I've been in the car quite a bit lately, but it's kind of the social distancing thing.
I thought I saw something like that. Are you a big fisherman? Is that a hobby of yours?
I used to be when I was younger, and then I was trying to find a hobby during the quarantine because there's not much to do. So I've kind of gotten pretty big into fishing lately, and it's been pretty good to kind of consume my time and have fun and relax. It's kind of therapeutic once you start doing it for a while. So it's been good for me.
I'm sure it's nice to get out of the house a little bit too. A question I always ask, especially with how long this has gone on, this lockdown, so to speak, is what shows you've binge watched, because a lot of people have spent so much time on their couch and so much time at home. They've been watching shows from beginning to end. And I'm not removed from that at all. I've watched my fair share of shows. Have you done any of that too?
Oh yeah. I just finished The Wire. It's on HBO.
Yeah.
I think that's in my top 5 all time. Like, that was
really
an unbelievable show. It's about like inner city Baltimore, kind of drugs and detective and things like that, and it really kept my attention. And then I've also been watching, it's called Mayans. It's a spin-off from Sons of Anarchy. I love Sons of Anarchy. It finished a few years back, so since then I missed it, so I started watching Mayans, and that's been good for me too. So it's, I don't know, I'll watch anything for a bit, but those two have really stuck with me.
See, I've always wanted to watch Sons of Anarchy from beginning to end, and then I'd probably give Mines a try too. And I just haven't been able to get started on it. Have you watched Sons of Anarchy all the way through previously?
I think I've watched it through 5 times. So
5.
Yeah. It's one of those shows for me where like I can turn it on and I just enjoy watching it.
I've heard so many good things about The Wire. Anybody that has watched it from beginning to end has said exactly the same thing you've said, how it's one of their top 5 favorite shows. And
Meech said the same thing.
Really?
Yeah, our equipment manager. So he loved it, and we were kind of talking about that a little bit about a week ago. So it's kind of funny.
Gotten a lot of comments about your video when we reached out to you right after the season ended to check in and see how you were doing, and you had the 2 dogs next to you by your side. What's the story there? Are they your dogs? Are they family dogs?
Well, they're family dogs. One was my sister's. The little one was my sister's, and then after college, she moved back home, and then we got the big one, the black lab Franklin. And once they were together for a while, once my sister moved out, she was like, I can't separate the dogs now. So they're kind of basically became both my mom's dogs. But I mean, I like to think they're my dogs as well. Every time I come home, I spend quite a bit of time with them. So it's one of my favorite things about going home is going to see them and hang out with the dogs.
It's been 10 weeks now, I think, or even longer since the season just abruptly ended. And you guys were in the middle of a playoff push. I know it was still an uphill battle to get in, but the team seemed to be playing pretty well and had a chance still to catch Indy perhaps for that last spot. And then all of a sudden it ended, and you guys kind of scattered and went home, and everybody safely had their exit interviews and all of that. What do you make of all of it? Have you had a chance to reflect at all on the season, some of the challenges you guys faced, and some of the successes, and then kind of how it just ended all of a sudden?
Well, it's definitely the weirdest ending I've ever had to a season. I mean, you always know at the end of the year, like, hey, this could be it if you're playing an elimination game in playoffs, or if You see the last few games and you get eliminated by points at the end of the season. But I've never, we went to the rink the one day and all of a sudden the season's canceled or season's postponed till Monday. And then by Saturday, we knew the season was canceled and our exit meeting was Monday. So, it kind of left, a weird taste in your mouth. I feel like especially some of the older guys that, I don't know, they don't know how many years they got left. I think it's kind of tough to just take it away from them. But, we had a lot of ups and downs this season, and we were kind of finding our stride at the right time, I thought. And we had a few games left against Indy who we were trying to catch. And I don't know, we were playing good hockey at the right time. But it's just tough when, there's so many things left uncertain. There's so many what ifs. What if the season kept going? Things like that. But, it's obviously the right call, and everybody did it. So it's something you got to deal with.
This year's goaltending duo, you and Jake Kiley, I feel like this is the most stability maybe at the position in a long time, as far as not having a lot of injuries, not having a lot of turnover, not having a lot of other goalies come in and out. Every season it seems like teams go through that, call-ups, send-downs, injuries, a lot more goalies than just two. And you and Jake kind of went back and forth throughout the year and shared the playing time for the most part. What was that relationship like with Jake and kind of going back and forth and feeding off each other all year?
Well, yeah, I think that's a very rare occurrence, especially in the minors, to only have two goalies for majority of the year. I think we had one, or at the end of the season, we brought in Lotzi, which he was awesome guy, awesome to have around. But I think Jake and I had a great relationship from day one. I think we kind of wanted to have that relationship where we push each other to get better, and we know we're competing for the same net. There's only one net and two of us, so it's definitely competitive. But we talked a lot. Even during the game, we'd come to the bench, we'd kind of help each other, say if we saw something on a certain play or anything like that. And it was just more building each other up, because that's what you want to do as a teammate. And Keels and I still have a good relationship, and it's nice when you have that, because that's not always the case. Some guys are pretty competitive and don't really like to have a relationship with their partner, so it's nice when you have that positive reinforcement.
On an off night, when you're playing the role of the backup, which every goalie has to do from time to time, I guess, do you have any fun stories, or how do you kind of pass the time from the bench? Do you have any fun stories of the coaching staff, or a timeout, or even just talking with Mitch does Mitch usually stand behind you on the bench?
Oh yeah, Mitch always hands me one of those sniffers. I think he thinks I'm falling asleep on the bench, so he makes sure I'm awake with one of those sniffers. But I kind of just like I don't know, try and enjoy it, try and watch the game, and be a good teammate. I really enjoy watching hockey, so when you get a close up view like that, and it's kind of funny. You don't get to see the personalities when you're playing as when you're on the bench hearing things. I think probably the funniest thing I've ever seen was Blaney. He was angry about something. He's a pretty vocal guy on the bench, as you can imagine. And I think he was pretty upset about something, and he tried to jump the boards. And when he jumped, his foot got stuck, and he just took a tumble on the ice. I was howling. I think you saw it. I think Marty got a video of it somehow, but I was howling. And he had this angry smirk on his face, kind of, and he took his little, it was during a timeout, and he took his little lap around, and he came back and he picked up snow and he threw it in my face. So that was probably one of the funniest things I've seen, especially last season, definitely last season, but I don't know if anything tops that.
I remember that story because that was a home game, wasn't it? It was at Wings Event Center.
We're at home, and I'm sitting next to Meech, and he does that, and I just lost it. And I looked at Meech. I think Meech and Marty both saw it too, and we were like, "Oh my gosh!" So that's priceless.
We asked the fans to chime in and ask any questions. They could be hockey related, they could be non-hockey related. We asked it all across social media, and this is probably my favorite part of these shows, is kind of hearing what the fans want to talk about. And if you're okay with it, we can jump right in, but there are some fun ones in there.
Good.
You're good?
Yeah.
So the first one's a random one. Dave wants to know, do you have any strong opinions one way or the other about reptiles?
About reptiles? Honestly, I I'm not a huge fan of like keeping them as pets. Like if you see them in the wild, I think it's pretty cool. But if you have them a pet in your house or apartment, I think it kind of creeps me out a little bit. But that's about it. I don't really know much about them.
I think the timing of that question is perfect because I just saw a viral video on, I think it was Twitter today, when I woke up this morning, where this alligator in Florida crawled onto this person's porch. They didn't go in the house, but like on the front porch. I guess there's, patio furniture and stuff, and there's a picture hanging above the patio furniture. And this alligator climbs up on the couch and like stands tall to try to get to this picture. And the picture's got a bunch of turtles on it. And this alligator's trying to eat the turtles, but they're not real. It's a part of a picture. And it was terrifying. It was probably a 12-foot gator. So I figured that lizard question was well timed.
Snakes don't fall in the reptile category. What do snakes fall in?
Snakes fall on something I never want to see in person again.
Oh my God. I just had this conversation with one of my buddies, and we were saying like the people that have snakes as pets really scare me. Really scare me.
Brent Burns has snakes as pets, and the NHL player for the Sharks. And we've talked about him during the quarantine because I'm starting to look more and more like him as long as this thing drags out. I don't understand it. The snakes as pets thing.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, beyond me.
Favorite beer. And this one I think there's a caveat to. It comes from Zach. And I know you went to Michigan State. I know it's known for being a little bit of a party school. You like to have a good time there. So I'd take favorite beer as like maybe a college beer versus like if you're just hanging out with friends having a casual craft beer at a brewery.
So I'm usually if I'm just having a couple, it's usually just a few Bud Lights. But if I'm at dinner, if I'm only going to have like one beer or so, it's usually going to be an IPA, which, there's a lot of breweries in Kalamazoo, which is kind of nice. So I've tried a few different IPAs around there. And so I don't think I have one IPA that's my favorite, but anything like a grapefruit IPA, pretty citrusy, things like that. But if I'm, having a few, it's usually just a standard Bud Light.
Speaking of East Lansing, we were both there last September for the ASU Michigan State football game. Is that something you're ready to talk about, or you just want to jump past that one?
They had a tough season last year, and we both went to the game, I believe. I don't think we saw each other, but no. Yeah, that was a tough game to watch.
I actually ran into Connor Schmidt that weekend in East Lansing, and he went to ASU, and that was when he was still with Toledo. That was before we traded for him in training camp. So I guess a few of us were there, but that Michigan State connection to Kalamazoo, it's like a pipeline. You have obviously Tanner Sorenson, who we'll get into in a second, Brendan Sanford. Late in the season, we signed Logan Lambden, a rookie who played one game before the season got canceled. I'm probably missing a few Michigan State alums recently, but what was your favorite memory of that whole experience?
I think there's a few different things we got to do. On ice memories, we played in 2 outdoor games, one at Soldier Field, one at what's Tiger Stadium? I can't remember. It might just be
Comerica.
Comerica, that's what it is, Comerica Park. So we played Michigan both games there. One was the GLI, the other one was just the Coyote Invite or something along those lines. So I think those 2 are my favorite on ice memories. And then the one year on New Year's Day, we took a bus down to the Big House to see the outdoor game. The Red Wings were playing, I want to say the Maple Leafs.
Yeah,
I believe it was the Red Wings versus Maple Leafs. We went as a team, and it was the morning after New Year's Eve, so it was a pretty good time. And we had a blast. We went there a few hours early, tailgated, went to the game, came back after that, and we all went out together. So it was kind of like a big team thing, and that's something I'll definitely never forget.
Speaking of outdoor games, assuming you come back next year, outdoor game at Toledo, first one as a pro potentially. What would you take from your previous experiences playing outdoors in college and kind of tell some of the guys that have never done it on what to expect, especially with Winterfest coming up in December?
I think it's just something that you really need to enjoy. You obviously have your game day routine and things like that, and when you're playing outdoors, sometimes it gets a little bit mixed up. But it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a good experience, and it's supposed to be obviously a great experience for the fans. So I've always had had a good time playing outdoors. The one time it was pretty bad weather, and I say bad, it was pretty warm. So the ice was, our game kept getting postponed because they had to wait till it got dark. So the ice would be cold. I think the best time was when we went to Comerica. We had a practice the day before our first game on the outdoor rink, and it was snowing pretty hard. And they got a picture of our whole team with the snow in the background. You could see the whole park. I think I still have that picture. So it's actually really cool. So I thought that was really fun.
We talked about Tanner Sorenson briefly, but good buddy of yours. You could maybe say best friend, roommate, played together in college, played together as pros. Are you sick of each other yet?
I wouldn't say that. I think we've played together for 5 years now. And I mean, it's been fun in hockey. There's a lot of turnover, especially in pro. And when you get to play with a guy for that long, you kind of create a relationship and a bond. And last year was our first year living together, but the year prior, he pretty much was at my apartment every day. Like, he lived there, he would just go sleep somewhere else. So, you know, when you can create a bond like that, it's pretty inseparable. We make sure we sit by each other in the locker room too, at home and away rinks. So it's kind of funny.
I saw an interaction between you guys on Instagram earlier this summer. As roommates, what strengths do you guys bring to the table? Like, is one of you the cook? Is one of you, I don't know, do the chores around the house? So how does that work?
So I cook, he cleans, which, I mean, like, he helps with the cooking sometimes. I help with the cleaning sometimes. He's a pretty neat guy. I really struggle taking out the trash, so sometimes I'll pile it up on the balcony and he'll have to send me a couple reminders to make sure I take the trash out. But yeah, usually it's I cook, he cleans, and I mean, we keep a pretty neat apartment, which is nice because sometimes you I don't know, you find those people that are pretty dirty and it just doesn't work out.
I'm going to put you on the spot. What's one thing about Tanner Sorenson? Maybe it's a talent or a fun fact that most people don't know.
Give me a second here. Well, I'm pretty sure everybody knows he's bald. But, let me think. All right, let's come back to that. I want to think of something good. I don't want to give you something boring.
Perfect. I'll try to remember that one. Jay wants to know what your favorite ice cream flavor is.
Oh, okay. Probably Heath Bar. Like when you buy like Breyers or something. Yep. I like to make so like when I cook, I also like to make desserts. So I'll make like a cookie skillet or a brownie skillet in one of those cast irons, and then I'll put like a Heath Bar ice cream on top. So Tanner and I really enjoy that.
Oh, that sounds really good right now. Favorite player growing up?
Fleury, Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, he was kind of the guy in Pittsburgh when I was coming up and really started paying attention to hockey. And then he went over to Vegas. So I've been away from Pittsburgh for a while now. So I grew up a huge Pens fan, but I kind of now more so just cheer for players. And he's one of my favorite guys to watch. He's always having fun, so energetic. And I think he's, you know, kind of a face of the game right now. So I think, you know, a guy like him's huge.
That Pittsburgh connection, obviously being from the area, being a Fleury fan, I'm assuming Penguins fan at one point, if not still today. I remember a game you were playing in, and it was against Cincinnati, I think. I don't want to get the story wrong, but your dad every now and then chimes in and sends me an email during a game that you're playing in, and I love it. It's kind of giving me a little factoid or a stat about your career. And I want to say one of them was you and Michael Hauser were in the same NHL training camp. Do I have that story right, or was it a different goalie I'm thinking of here?
We weren't in the same training camp, but we grew up playing together in Pittsburgh.
Gotcha.
So, what was it? We were goalie partners my Squirt AA year. We had a pretty good team that year. Just from,
I would think so.
A Squirt AA. Yeah, it was like Steven Johns was on the team, a guy named Ty Loney who played a handful of American League games and plays overseas now. But yeah, we had a pretty good team that year. But we played together, and then he was the year above me when we turned to AAA, so we were always kind of in the same organization, but our paths have crossed quite a few times. We used to work out together over summers as well, and we still stay in touch.
Yeah. Speaking of your dad, what has it been like to have the support of your parents traveling around, watching you play in all these different cities? And, you know, I think I met him for the first time in Tulsa when you were playing for the Oilers. He came all the way down to Tulsa. So we've seen quite a bit of them when we go to Wheeling throughout the season, being the location. But what has that been like, having your supportive system in place that's followed you around everywhere?
I think it's huge, especially with how much we have to travel and kind of the uncertainty that goes on in our lives while we're moving around and traveling to different places. But I mean, it's always a special thing when your parents come to town, or when I go back to Wheeling. I think I got a pretty good record in Wheeling, so I think having my parents there for that really helps me a lot.
You're not exactly Wheeling fans' favorite player. Well, you are in a sense, but Wheeling fans and employees and my good buddy, their broadcaster TJ, be the first to tell you that every time you play against Wheeling, you usually win. I don't know what your record is, but he had it on hand one game, and he was like, "Yeah, Jake Hildebrand is 12-1 against us in the last 2 years," or like, holy smokes.
I saw it was funny too. I think I saw a tweet one time. It was my record and Michael Hauser's record going to Wheeling. And since both being Pittsburgh kids, I think having the family around, I don't know, helps out a little bit, and a little extra motivation. You don't want your family to see you lose, because then you're miserable after the game. So you always want to have everybody in a good mood.
Shannon wants to know how you handle the pressure, because goalies have a really tough job. They get a lot of the heroics, if you will, in victory. They sometimes take a lot of heat in defeat. And I'm sure every goalie's gone through hearing the boos at times from the home crowd, which is never fun. How do you handle all that stuff? I mean, you seem pretty even-keeled.
Yeah, I mean, I think you take it all with a grain of salt. The people that really matter, their opinion matters, obviously, are the coaches and people in the organization, and you kind of take what they say more so as like outsiders' points of view. And I mean, I've played in cities where they love me and I could do no wrong, and then I played in Tulsa where it wasn't too good for me. So it was kind of, you see a little bit of both, and Kalamazoo has been great to me, a lot of support. But I think you really try to block that stuff out and just worry about who matters. And I mean, regardless if you play well or you don't play well, you give up 10, I think like you still talk to your family after the game, and they're going to be there to support you regardless of what happens. So it's you just worry about who matters.
Yeah, this one's one of my favorite questions, because I've always been big on the helmet designs that goalies will have custom made, and what goes into it, and the thought process of what you want on your goalie helmet that you're going to wear all year. So Jason wants to know what your favorite helmet is that you've gotten custom made. And I want to know, do you have a go-to guy that you go to each time, or is it just based on recommendation? How does that happen?
Yeah, my favorite helmet all time was my helmet from junior year at Michigan State. I thought that we would all my roommates, a few other guys, we'd all just sit around some nights and kind of throw out random designs. And I thought that was the one that was put together the best. And Jason Livery of Headstrong Graphics is the guy that always does it. And I think he's done 5 or 6 of my helmets now. So once you find a guy, kind of you like what he does, he treats you well, it's not waiting a year to get your helmet, you kind of stick with him. And he's been my guy ever since I was like a freshman in college. So he's been great to me. He does a lot of NHL guys. He's a pretty big name guy. So it's nice when you find that connection.
Ollie, who's the founding member and president of the Jake Hildebrand Appreciation Society, wants to know, why number 29?
Well, I was number 30, like pretty much my whole career. Sometimes I'd play in a place where I didn't get to pick the number, but I was 30 my whole career. And then after that year in Tulsa, I kind of wanted to switch things up a bit. And like you said, my favorite player growing up was Fleury. So I wanted to switch to 29, and haven't really looked back. It's kind of weird. A bunch of my buddies back home were like, I thought you were 30, but yeah, I switched it a couple years back, and I think I'm going to keep it.
I like it. Wido, the bus driver, Wido, wants to know how past bus experiences traumatized you and how that's helped you appreciate coming to Kalamazoo, because I think we have it pretty good here.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So
I don't want to get you in trouble, so maybe you can be vague about it if you want.
Yeah. I played in a couple of places where the buses were pretty ridiculous. Not the most luxurious, and I don't know, didn't really feel safe on it. And then you come to Kalamazoo, where I mean, it's pretty much luxury buses. Every bunk has a DVD player, and the bus driver like Wido does a great job keeping it between the rumble strips. Sometimes he hits them and wakes me up at 5 a.m. But he does a pretty good job keeping it between the rumble strips, which is nice. So yeah, when you come there and you don't really have to worry about anything and everything's clean and you get direct TV or whatever it is, satellite TV on there, and it helps with the tough travel that we do go through in a season because some of those road trips are pretty brutal. You're playing in Indy one night and Kansas City the next night, and that's 8 hours away, and you're getting in at 7 a.m. So if you got a good place to sleep and a good bus driver, it definitely makes those trips a little bit easier.
That Indy Kansas City trip that you speak of too, that was the trip that you got your shutout against Indy, right? And then the next night you played in Kansas City. There was like a 7-hour difference or 8-hour drive in between.
Yeah,
that's a tough task for goalies, especially because you guys are, I'm sure, sore after every game. Then you play back-to-back nights, 8 hours apart, coming off of a shutout where your adrenaline's probably at an all-time high. What was that like that weekend?
Well, kind of it. When you're doing that, you're not really thinking. There's no real downtime to where you're just sitting around thinking about stuff. Things obviously went our way that night in Indy where we won 1-0 in the shootout and felt pretty good about my game. But after the game, you're on the bus, you're eating, you're laying down, and you're pretty much trying to sleep until you got to go to the rink the next day at 4:00. I remember I slept probably 3 or 4 hours on the bus. We got in around, 7:30. I think I had breakfast and then had breakfast, took a walk or something, went and laid back down, got up for lunch, went and laid back down, and all of a sudden it's time to go to the rink again. And you're like, where did the day go? But, especially back-to-back games, it's really important to get your rest and downtime. And sooner, like before you even know it, you're playing again and you're just not even thinking. So you're kind of getting to that game mode.
It was probably nice in the second game that your team scored 8 goals to help you out because the shutout game was 0-0 going into a shootout. That shutout game against Indy was your 6th of your career as a pro so far. Coming against your former team and in the fashion it was in a shootout, it was 0-0. Did it make it any sweeter?
Yeah, I love playing in Indy. Actually, they did nothing but great things and support for me when I was there, and honestly love the city as well. So I remember my first season in Kalamazoo, I had a couple tough games in Indy where I didn't think I played well, and I kind of, the loss sucks, but it hurts even more when it's a kind of a place you love. So this season, I think I kind of, played a little bit better when we were there, and it's fun to play there. It's a great arena. It's loud there too. So I don't know. It does make it a little bit sweeter.
Before you went to Indy, your first taste of pro hockey was a shortened season with Allen after finishing at Michigan State. You guys went and won the Kelly Cup that year. That's a pretty, I don't want to say spoiled, but that's a pretty cool way to start your pro career. What was that experience like to be a part of that? And even though you weren't in Allen very long, how do you cherish some of those memories?
Well, I spent, I think, about 3 months there, and it was kind of funny. I was going there after the season, and there was a couple different things where maybe I could drive down, maybe I could fly down. I talked to one of the guys that played pro for, 8 years, and he said, pack for a week, stay for a year, pack for a year, stay for a week. So he's like, I just packed for a week, and I brought a bag of clothes, and I ended up having to go buy clothes while I was down there. But we struggled when I was at MSU that season. I think we had 9 wins all year, and then I played 6 games during the regular season. I think I went 5-1. So I went 5 games and 6 games instead of 9 and 36. But just to be around those kind of players, there was a really special group there that season. I think that was the 4th one they won in a row, and they had guys like Chad Costello put up 120 points a season. Gregor Hansen, Mikowski, Asachuk, who's still down there. It was just, I don't know, the vibe around the locker room. I think we had 5 games going to overtime that season, and all 5 ended within the first 5 minutes. We won all of them. And it was just kind of like they had a group with that mentality, like, we need a goal, somebody would go score. And it was just, there was a veteran guy there in front of me in net, Riley Gill. He was 32. I think he won 3 or 4 Kelly Cup championships. So kind of seeing how he goes about things, what he does, and how he was just a born winner. I think he's at the most playoff wins in ECHL history. So you see how he goes about things. And I was a young guy, kind of little goofball. And I don't know, you just try and watch and learn from him.
So you went to Indy after that on an AHL deal with Rockford. Then you signed as a free agent with Tulsa after that, played there for a season, and then the trade to Kalamazoo. And now you've been in Kalamazoo for 2 years. How have Coach Bootland and maybe especially Coach Joel Martin, who is a goalie and the winningest goalie in K-Wings history, how have they helped your development?
Well, I think everything as an organization in Kalamazoo just is incredibly professional. Reminds me of how things, were handled in college with the travel, preparation, and I mean, even the locker room. Like we have our weight room in the locker room. The amount of video we go through, the heart rate monitors we wear, they take all that into consideration. We have our own strength coach at the rink every day. And then having Marty there every day to be a goalie coach who watch video every game. And we go on the ice early every day before practice, which really helps my practices. If I go on 30 minutes before practice, my practices are way better than if I just hop on 5 minutes before and don't really get a good warm up in. So I think the professionalism, and I mean, they're easy guys to talk to. Head coaches and assistant coaches in the coast or in the minors probably have 30 jobs, whether it's dealing with travel or whatever, recruiting, things like that. I mean, they do so much more than just the coaching aspect of hockey. So I think they do a great job of handling that, and that's really helped me. I mean, if I need anything, have any questions, the door's always open, and it's very personable, not just a coach-player relationship.
Will wants to know why you chose Michigan State. Did you have other options? Was it something about the fit, the location, the coaching staff?
They were the first kind of big name school to recruit me. I talked to them for a while, and then I stopped talking to them, and I wasn't sure why. And I found out that the coaches had gotten fired. And then about 6 months later, they reached out again. I was talking to them, UMass Lowell and Providence, which, I mean, were great hockey schools. Both those schools played. Providence won a national title, and UMass Lowell played in, I think, 2 Frozen Fours. So, I mean, they were both great schools. But once I went on my recruiting visit to Michigan State, I saw the campus, and I mean, it was kind of what I wanted out of a college. I wanted a 30,000 person school with a great football team, great basketball team. Like I wanted to experience all that stuff. And I think I got the full experience at Michigan State. Our football team played in the college football playoff when I was there. Our basketball team played in the Final Four. The buzz around campus is just, it's exciting. It's fun. When sports are good, everything's good there. So, and they gave you every opportunity for success. I remember when I was on my recruiting visit, they were talking about all the academic coordinators, the tutors, the time put away for, studying, all that stuff. And it was basically like, if you can't pass school, then you're trying to fail, because we are giving you everything you could possibly need to be successful. And I think the connections I made there, are really going to help me throughout life, especially life after hockey.
You're no stranger to the highlight reel saves and some of the top playlists. I've seen several since we've known each other where you've made it on the top 5 plays of the week or whatever it may be. My favorite memory of in-game of yours was probably when we played Idaho and you were still with Tulsa, and I think you made like 50 some odd saves, and there were probably 5 of them that were top plays. Do you guys have a running highlight reel video as a family that you're putting together, so when you finally decide to hang up the skates, you've got this 10-minute long tape of all your big saves?
No, I really don't. I do like going back and watching certain things, and I mean, I've had a few in Kalamazoo and things like that, and you see them, and it's fun, it's exciting to watch, and I mean, I think I could YouTube some of it and find something, but I've never actually, tried to put anything together myself.
One fact I didn't know about, I only have a couple more for you. One fact I did not know about until this summer, I saw it on Twitter, was you've played 182 games the last 5 years in the ECHL, which is the most in the entire league. You and Pat Nagel of Toledo have played the most ECHL games in the last 5 seasons. Does it wear on you? I mean, what's the wear and tear like? That's a lot of games in 5 seasons.
Yeah, and well, I mean, the first season was only 6 games because it was after college too. So
yeah.
But I think ever since my juniors, I've kind of, prided myself on trying to be a workhorse, what's what they call it in hockey. So I think every season, from my last year of juniors, I played 35 or more games. And this year was obviously my lowest as a pro, but we had 10 games left, and I think I would have, got right back up there. So I'm the kind of guy that, I don't like not being in that. And I understand now that I'm getting older, it's good for me to not be in the net every night. With the travel and the amount of games and the 3-3s, 4-5s, things like that, your body needs a break, and rest is a weapon, they say. So it does, kind of irk me when I'm not playing, but I've grown to, kind of accept it and make sure my body is ready to go. But I do like to, if I could, I'd play every night, and that's kind of just the mindset I have towards it, and that's just making sure your body's ready to go.
Final 3 questions. Jennifer wants to know one piece of advice you would give to your younger self.
Piece of advice I give to my younger self. Don't be in a rush. I think everybody, I mean, everybody wants instant gratification and things like that. And everybody has a different path. Whether it's some people play 4 years of juniors, 5 years of juniors, and go into college as a 20-year-old. And I think I was always in a rush to be at the next level, when it's take your time, take your path. Everybody's a different path, and there's no right or wrong way to get to where you're going. It's just about getting there and at the right time.
We talked about the trip back to Allen this year, but we also made a trip back to Tulsa. And I know that there is one family that really left an impact on you that you've kept in touch with from Tulsa. And that's the McKinney family. And you worked with their kids who are youth hockey players. And what I'm getting at is, you love to work with, as long as I've known you, you love to work with youth hockey players, young goalies, kind of help coach them, help teach them, help out at camps. Where does that come from, and how much joy do you get in being able to help the next ones in line, the ones that strive to be the next Jake Hildebrand?
Well, I think at the beginning, it more so when I started coaching, I think I started coaching, I might have been 17, so 10, 11 years ago. And it was more so just I needed a summer job, and my goalie coach Shane Clifford was doing camps, and it was like, hey, we work them, I'll pay you, and whatever. And then as I did that for about 5-6 years, it was like, okay, I enjoy doing this. I enjoy watching a kid grow, watching a kid get better, and kind of being a part of that. And sometimes it's just on ice, sometimes it's off ice, like mentoring, things like that. So I think it's really given me a sense of pride and things like that. And I think it helps my own game. A lot of times you work with guys watching video, and they try to coach you, but can you coach yourself? Can you look back on a play and understand what you did wrong? And sometimes that is understanding there's nothing you did wrong, and that play was completely out of your control. And I think that comes with age as well, because younger me wants to make sure every puck stays out of the net, but sometimes it's just like there's nothing you can really do about that. But I do enjoy doing it, and I mean, I think every year I'm starting to get more clients and things like that, and building, say my own goalie school or my own brand. But I think it's really nice to give back to the community.
Last one I have is, what does your future look like? I mean, how many more years do you want to play hockey? And have you given that any thought? You said you're getting older. I still think you got a lot of years left if you want to take them. And then I guess what's life after hockey look like? Have you given that any thought?
I try to take it year by year. I don't want to say I want to play for 5 more years and then kind of have that mindset. It's more of a year by year thing. And, do I still love it? Obviously I do right now. And can my body still do it? And I think the answer to yes to that. So I think those 2 questions are the biggest things about when it's time to, move on from hockey. And everybody I've talked to was always like, you'll know when it's time. And, it's not time yet for me. So I definitely want to keep going for now. But life after hockey, I've talked about a few different things. I've talked about getting into sales, and that was kind of one route. And then the other one was obviously if I, keep doing the coaching thing, if I can build up my name and reputation and things like that, maybe, stay involved in hockey. And maybe there's a way I could do both. I don't know, but I can't really imagine, having a life that's not involved in hockey or having that team atmosphere. But only time will tell. But for now, it's playing and coaching.
Well, this was a lot of fun. I appreciate you taking some time to catch up.
1 second. We got to go back to Tanner Sorenson. And
do it.
Something I remembered. He likes to color. We always he had like a coloring book that we had at the apartment. And sometimes we'd get back and guys would color some stupid things, but he had like a coloring book and crayons, and then he does a lot of puzzles as well. We always had, our kitchen table was never really a kitchen table because there was always a puzzle on it. So randomly we would just sit there and, I don't know, for 30 minutes do a puzzle, walk away, come back, and it's kind of funny. You get stuck on it, you walk away, you come back for 5 seconds and you find a new piece. So it's one of those things, but yeah, he does a lot of that stuff.
You can keep it inside the lines.
Yeah, sometimes.
That's the first start. Well, I appreciate you doing this. We'll have to get Tanner on a show, so maybe you can use your sales skills to convince him to come on a future show here this summer. But stay safe and keep up the great work, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay, thanks for having me. Stay safe.